Considered is next on WHYY-FM, Philadelphia.
Supporting WHYY, Penn Medicine Heart and Vascular Center. You'll find Penn Heart and Vascular Care in more than 15 locations throughout Greater Philadelphia. Penn doctors and surgeons, advanced technologies, and local access to the full Penn Medicine system. For a second opinion or a first, there is a Penn Heart and Vascular Center near you. Information at pennmedicine.org/heart and vascular. That's pennmedicine.org/heart and vascular.
Financial markets are flat just before the close. Details on Marketplace and at 6:30 on WHYY.
This is WHYY-FM Philadelphia, WNJN-FM Atlantic City, WNJZ-FM Cape May Courthouse, WNJM-FM Manahawkin, WNJB-FM Bridgeton, and WNJS-FM Berlin.
I think they're trying to take it away from Bernie again. I think Bernie came in second. Can you believe it? They're doing it to you again, Bernie. They're doing it to you again.
Bernie Sanders won big in New Hampshire 4 years ago. Will he do it again tonight?
It's Tuesday, February 11th, and this is All Things Considered from NPR News.
I'm Ari Shapiro in Manchester, New Hampshire.
And I'm Audie Cornish in Washington. This hour we'll ask a senior advisor to the Biden campaign why her candidate is leaving New Hampshire before results come in.
Also, how doctors are handling people with the coronavirus.
We're just trying to support their bodies through it while they deal with the infection themselves.
Later, why Trump remains popular in Nigeria, even after he expanded the travel ban to cover that country.
President Trump is saying, we don't want immigrants from this part of the world. Nigerians don't hold it against him because the impression is that, well, he's saying what everybody else thinks.
And we remember the founder of Ladysmith Black Mambazo.
Now news.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The Democratic Party's looking for a reset in New Hampshire after the reporting debacle in Iowa, where there's still no one clear winner. NPR's Asma Khalid says Senators Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren are hoping a little New England home turf advantage will make a difference, while a fair candidate decides to move on before the polls even close.
While most Democratic presidential candidates are in New Hampshire tonight, former Vice President Joe Biden is skipping out on his own party and bouncing down to South Carolina instead. Biden polls much better with African-American voters, and South Carolina, which is the fourth state to vote, has a large share of black Democratic voters. It's extremely low expectations of any challenge for the year. He's given something by a moderate candidate, Buttigieg, after Sanders and Klobuchar. Asma Khalid, NPR News, Manchester.
Roger Stone now be looking at the last time behind bars after President Trump took to Twitter to protest federal prosecutor's recommendation that his longtime ally should serve 7 to 9 years. The Justice Department, led by Attorney General William Barr, is taking the unusual step of revising that recommendation. A Justice Department prosecutor who worked under former Special Counsel Robert Mueller today filed a notice of withdrawal from the case. Roger Stone accused Blakemont as an intermediary between Trump's campaign and WikiLeaks in 2015. He was convicted last fall of witness tampering, making false statements, and obstruction. The coronavirus disease global health officials are now formally recognizing as COVID-19 shows no sign of abating. More than 40,000 people have been infected. About 20% of these patients developed the disease caused by the virus. But 1,000 people have died from the illness, for which there may not be a vaccine for 18 more months. The vast majority of the cases remain in China, where the novel coronavirus was first detected in December. On top of the human toll, the outbreak is taking an economic toll, and the Federal Reserve is watching to see how disruptions in China will affect the U.S. economy. We have this from NPR's Scott Nichols.
Bell told a congressional committee the central bank is monitoring the outbreak closely. The coronavirus itself, along with Chinese quarantine efforts, are disrupting travel, demand for U.S. exports, and the supply of components used by American manufacturers. Now, it could be some time, though, before the extent of that damage can be measured.
That there will be some effects. The question really will be what will be the size and scope of them, and also will they be persistent, or will it be something that just passes through?
Now knows China's central bank has already taken steps to cushion the economic blow, but he says it's not yet clear whether similar actions will be needed in the U.S. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
This is NPR News.
Good afternoon. I'm Dave Heller, WHYY News. It's 4:04. 2 University of Delaware students are being tested for possible cases of coronavirus. School officials say the students do not live on campus. They're being held in isolation at a local hospital while the Delaware Division of Public Health awaits test results from the CDC. UD officials say the risk of the virus spreading to other students, quote, remains low. The Jewish Federation of Greater Philadelphia released new survey results showing the Jewish community in the area has grown by almost 60% in the past 10 years. WHYY's Nina Feldman reports the new survey includes an expanded definition of who is considered to be Jewish.
The new data includes those who were raised Jewish or who have a Jewish parent but don't identify with the label. That brings the number of Jews in the greater Philadelphia region to 308,000, giving the metro area here the 3rd largest population of Jews in the country.
Enjoy number 3, it may not last.
That's Darby Steiger, who conducted the survey through Westat, a Maryland-based research corporation. She says that data for other large cities like Chicago, New York, and LA are out of date, and once they update their numbers, the rankings are likely to change. Nina Feldman, WHYY News.
Pennsylvania is launching the website where voters for the first time can request the newly legalized mail-in ballots ahead of the state's April 28th primary election. Starting today, online applicants must supply a driver's license number or an ID card number from a card issued by the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, as well as their name, address, phone number, and email address. The mail-in ballots, part of an election reform law signed in October by Governor Tom Wolf, now allow all voters to vote by mail for any reason. Checking sports, the 76ers host the Los Angeles Clippers this evening. The Flyers skate with the Islanders in New York tonight. It's 4:06. This is 90.9 WHYY.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Procter & Gamble, maker of Align Probiotic, a daily supplement to support digestive health, containing a probiotic strain developed by gastroenterologists with 20 years of research. More at alignprobiotics.com.
It's All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Audie Cornish in Washington.
And I'm Ari Shapiro in Manchester, New Hampshire, where people have been voting all day in the first primary contest of 2020. For more on what to watch for tonight here in New Hampshire, other than whether we will actually get results, we are joined by NPR's Mara Elias. Hi, Mara.
Hi, Ari.
Okay, so we have to remind people once again, just like in Iowa, there's not a lot of delegates on the line tonight. Nobody is coming close to getting the nomination yet. So what is important as we watch this race and the results that are going to be coming in?
One thing that's important is turnout. That's pretty basic. Overall turnout was about 250,000 votes for Democrats in the 2016 primary, and turnout is a measure of enthusiasm. And it's also Bernie Sanders' electability argument. He says that he can turn out, bring millions of new voters into the process. He couldn't do that in Iowa, where turnout was disappointingly flat. It was about the same as 2016. He managed to get a tiny uptick in the 18 to 29-year-old vote, about 30%, but they're only 1% of the electorate. So we'll see if he can do that tonight. We'll also find out if Bernie Sanders is a strong front runner. He did the same in Iowa as he did in 2016. He tied for first place. But in New Hampshire, he has a tough act to follow, his own, because he beat Hillary Clinton by 22 points in 2016, and he's been leading in the polls all along. So one question tonight is, how close will Mayor Pete Buttigieg finish behind Sanders, who has clearly consolidated the left wing of his party?
If Sanders has clearly consolidated the left wing of his party, the center left of the party is a little less clear. What are you looking for?
A lot less clear. Ever since the guy who was supposed to be the most electable, Joe Biden, came in a disappointing fourth in Iowa, the big question is whether Democrats would consolidate around a center-left candidate, an alternative to Bernie Sanders, and who would that be? Right now, Buttigieg is the strongest competitor against Sanders, but he appeared to lose some ground in recent days to Amy Klobuchar since the last debate. But Klobuchar has a lot of ground to make up. And Elizabeth Warren, who was trying to present herself as a kind of unifying balance between the center-left and the left, has made just enough big strategic errors to slip into a battle for third place. And that's not good for a senator from next door Massachusetts. So the bottom line question is, will we get more clarity after tonight, or will a lot of candidates continue slogging forward? And that really worries Democrats because they are desperate to unify and get going in the battle against Trump.
I want to ask you about another candidate slogging forward who has not competed in these first two states, but who has spent a lot of money. Former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg is facing some fresh scrutiny today. What's going on?
Yes, a lot of scrutiny. There's tape of him saying that back in the 90s we put cops in minority neighborhoods because that's where all the crime was. Of course, black leaders will tell you that's also where the victims of crime were, but that policy had the unintended consequence of arresting more black kids for marijuana than white kids, and that is going to be a real issue for him in this primary.
So given how fractured the race is, who's going to take advantage of this, do you think?
Well, Bloomberg's relationship with the black community is clearly going to be part of the big battle in the primary, especially when you get to Super Tuesday states with large numbers of African-American voters. His competitors will draw attention to it, but right now, the person really working this is Donald Trump. He tweeted that Bloomberg is a total racist, kind of just like he used the 1994 crime bill against Hillary Clinton to great effect. He is now trying to use it against Bloomberg. He's not just tearing Democrats down, he's also trying to boost Bernie Sanders. Here's what he said about the muddled Iowa results at a rally he held last night in New Hampshire.
I think they're trying to take it away from Bernie again. I think Bernie came in second. Can you believe it? They're doing it to you again, Bernie. They're doing it to you again.
So he's clearly trying to appeal to Sanders voters. A lot of them are in his white working class demographic. He wants them to be upset and angry at the Democratic establishment. He's trying to create as much discord and disarray within the Democratic primary as he can, at the same time undermining whoever might emerge as a threat to him.
NPR national political correspondent Mara Liasson on this day of the New Hampshire primaries. Thanks, Mara.
Thank you. Harvey Weinstein's defense team has rested its case. He's the former Hollywood film producer accused by more than 80 women of sexual misconduct. He's charged with 5 counts of rape and assault against 2 women in New York City. I want to note that this next story obviously deals with the subject of sexual violence. It's NPR's Rose Friedman, who's been in the courthouse each day and joins us now to talk more about the story. Rose, to begin, we've heard from a number of women in this trial, meaning they've taken the stand, saying they were raped or assaulted. What did the defense have to say?
Well, Weinstein's side doesn't actually have to prove anything. All they have to do is make the jury doubt that he's guilty. So they tried to knock holes in the women's testimony by calling people who could refute different parts of their stories. Weinstein is charged with raping a woman named Jessica Mann in 2013, with forcing oral sex on a former production assistant named Miriam Haley in 2006, and raping actress Annabella Sciorra in the winter of 1993. Her story actually isn't its own charge. It's being used to bolster the most serious charges. And Weinstein has just maintained that all of those were consensual.
How did the defense actually make that case, though? I mean, were there witnesses they could call?
Yeah, they started making the case when they got to cross-examine the women by trying to damage their credibility, suggesting they don't actually remember the incidents or that they've changed their stories over the course of the investigation. And then when it was their turn to call witnesses, they began to bring in people who were around at the times that these things were alleged to have happened, who could say, you know, it didn't happen that way, it didn't happen at all, or it couldn't have happened that way. So that included 2 different friends of Jessica Mann's. One friend said Mann's relationship with Weinstein had seemed consensual at the time, and that Mann had once called Weinstein her spiritual soulmate. Another said Mann wasn't acting abnormally right after the alleged rape. They also called a building manager who said Weinstein would not have been able to come up to Annabella Sciorra's apartment unannounced, and they called a male friend of Sciorra's who said that her incident was consensual.
I want to talk about how this is playing out in court, an actual courtroom versus the court of public opinion. Obviously, Weinstein's case is so high profile and so many women have come out with allegations. But what does that mean here in this courtroom?
Yeah, in court, this is a really hard case to prove. There's very little physical evidence, so the prosecution is hoping that the jury will find at least some of these women credible. They've asked the judge to allow 3 other women who aren't part of the charges to testify in order to establish a pattern of Weinstein's behavior. But these are crimes that allegedly happened in a room between 2 people, so it really comes down to whether the jury believes that these encounters were unwanted.